Ready to dive into a classic rom-com that's got way more going on than you might think. We're talking Lover Come Back from 1961, with Doris Day and Rock Hudson. This was actually their second movie together.
Oh,
And
no.
well, if you haven't seen it, I'm guessing you at least know Doris Day and Rock Hudson as like this comedic duo, right?
Absolutely. Though Lever Come Back, it's not all just laughs. It definitely fits the rom-com mold, but it also pushes some boundaries. Especially when you consider when it came out, the early 60s. There are some pretty interesting things going on beneath the surface.
Yeah, okay. So we've got rival ad execs, mistaken identities, this whole thing about a product called VIP. Sounds like your typical romantic comedy setup.
Right, but then weave in some social commentary. I mean, you've got the whole battle of the sexist thing happening, and it's all set in this super competitive advertising world.
And then, bam, accidental marriage. You got to tell me more about this. What's the basic plot of this movie?
Okay, so picture this. Doris Day's character, Carol Templeton. She's like the ultimate principled advertising executive, and she's going head-to-head with Jerry Webster, played by Rock Hudson. He's charming, but not exactly ethical. The two of them are constantly trying to outdo each other, which leads to all these hilarious schemes and mix-ups.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster, but like a really funny disaster.
Exactly. And in the middle of all this, Jerry, he's desperate, so he just invents this product. He calls it VIP, and it's supposed to be like this miracle product to impress a client.
VIP. Okay, this VIP thing, it's obviously more than just a random product,
Oh yeah, it takes on a life of its own. You could say VIP becomes a symbol
right?
for desire and what people will do to get it.
All right, you've definitely got me curious about this VIP thing. But before we get too deep into that, what did critics think about this movie? Did they see those deeper layers, or was it just like a fun rom-com to them?
Liver Come Back was a huge hit with critics. Even today, it's considered a classic. The New York Times, they even compared it to It Happened One Night, said it was smart, charming, all that. One review even called it sophisticated humor, which, you don't see that too often in romantic comedies.
So definitely more to it than meets the eye. And speaking of charming, we have to talk about Tony Randall.
Oh, yeah. Tony Randall plays Mr. Calloway, the boss, and he is constantly flustered, but he absolutely steals every scene, just brings this perfect comedic energy. He really complements Day and Hudson so well.
He really does. So you've got great dialogue, amazing actors, and a plot that sounds both hilarious and kind of thought-provoking. But I feel like we're just scratching the surface here.
Oh, definitely. There's a reason we're doing a deep dive on Lever Comeback. Like, did you know Doris Day was really devout Catholic? Well, she actually insisted on changing the ending of the movie. She refused to shoot a scene where the characters wake up in bed together before they were married.
Wow. That's some serious dedication to her beliefs. You don't see actors doing that every day. It makes you appreciate her influence.
Absolutely. It just adds another layer to the whole movie. Knowing that Doris Day's values had a part in shaping the final product.
Yeah, totally. It's like we're seeing the movie from a different perspective now, getting all the behind-the-scenes details. It's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Exactly. And when it comes to Lever Comeback, those behind-the-scenes stories can be just as fascinating as the movie itself. So one thing about Lever Comeback that's really interesting is how it handles identity. And I'm talking both on-screen and in real life. Think about Jerry Webster, the character Rock Hudson plays.
Right.
On the surface, he's just this, charming, successful ad executive. But like we've been saying, there's more to it than that.
Right. And this is where things get really interesting, right? Because knowing now about Rock Hudson's life, that he was living as a closeted gay man during like the peak of old Hollywood,
Yeah,
it adds a whole other level to the movie.
totally. I mean, there's this one line, it seems kind of throwaway when you first hear it. This one character is talking about Jerry and his, reputation with women, and they say, he's the last one I would have suspected. Yeah, they just probably laughed at that, right? But knowing what we know now, it hits different.
Yeah.
It's like the movie accidentally hints at the truth about Rock Hudson, makes his performance even more poignant.
Like the movie unintentionally predicted what would eventually be revealed.
Exactly. And this whole thing, the on-screen story and the off-screen reality, it's had a huge impact on how people see the movie now. Even caused a divide with fans.
You mentioned this earlier, the fandom divide.
Yeah.
It makes sense though, right? I mean, back then, the big studios, they were all about controlling their stars' images.
Totally. It had to be all perfect and wholesome, even if it wasn't true at all.
So when the truth came out about Hudson's personal life and there were all these rumors about other actors in the movie, did that change how fans felt about Live or Come Back?
For some people, it ruined the illusion, like they felt lied to. Having to face the truth about these actors, it was hard. It started all these conversations about celebrity and how the studio system worked. Like, where do you draw the line between an actor's personal life and their work?
Makes you wonder how many other classic movies have these, like, hidden stories, stories that completely change how we see them. But I bet for some fans, it didn't ruin the movie for them. If anything, it made it more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people say knowing the context a film was made in, like the social rules, the stuff that happened off screen, it actually can make you appreciate it more. And for Lover Comeback specifically, it starts this really interesting conversation about how social values change and how powerful stories are.
Right, like the movie becomes this time capsule. It shows us what people valued back then, but it also forces us to look at our own views.
Exactly. And we see this with how they handle Rock Hudson's personal life being hidden and also in how they show women in the workplace, which at the time was actually pretty progressive.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Doris Day's character, Carol Templeton, she is not some damsel in distress. She's
Mhm.
ambitious, she's smart, she can handle herself, even in a male-dominated world.
Absolutely. She's not afraid at all to challenge Jerry at work and romantically. And, like, the movie doesn't shy away from showing how sexist people were in advertising. Remember that scene where she's pitching a campaign and it's all men in the room and they're way more interested in her legs than her ideas?
Oh, yeah. It's funny, but it's also like, wow, that was the reality for women back then.
Exactly. And sure, Lover Comeback isn't trying to be some feminist statement, but it does make you think about gender roles back then.
It's amazing how a film from so long ago can still make us think about these things today.
That's the power of art, right? It holds a mirror up to society, shows us all the complicated parts, and makes us question stuff.
And speaking of questioning stuff, can we go back to VIP, that mystery product? You were saying it's symbolic.
Oh yeah, VIP is way more than just something in the plot. It's a metaphor for desire and how powerful and unpredictable it can be.
So VIP, this mysterious product, it's just like a silly idea at first, right? This ad man who's way over his head. But then it becomes something else entirely.
Yeah, for sure. And don't forget, this isn't just any product. It's made to be irresistible, to make people want things they didn't even know they wanted.
And the way it's shown in the movie, it's like VIP is magic or something. Like 1 minute, Carol and Jerry are rivals, all serious, and the next.
They're acting impulsively, getting hitched, and it's totally unexpected. I mean, an accidental marriage.
It's hilarious. And it's not just them. Every character who tries VIP, they all start acting totally out of character. Like they lose all their inhibitions.
Yeah. VIP, it's like this catalyst. It makes people show their true selves, their desires, even if they're not so pretty. It's almost like the movie is saying, look, we all have these hidden desires, right? We want to connect, we want excitement, maybe a little chaos even if we pretend we don't.
That's what makes the whole VIP thing so smart. It's funny, sure, and it creates these misunderstandings that drive the plot. But then there's this other level where it's really about what people want. How desire can mess things up, but also make life better.
And that's what I like about this movie. It's more than just a silly rom-com. Lover Comeback. It's got depth. It makes you think about relationships, even if you're laughing the whole time.
It's like, even when you're having fun, there's always room to, think a little deeper. Sometimes the movies that make you laugh are the same ones that really stay with you.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's why Lover Comeback is still so popular. It works on all these different levels. There's something for everyone.
It's just a fun movie to watch, a glimpse into the 60s with the clothes and the music, but it also deals with these really human themes. Ambition, competition, love, desire, and it does it all in this lighthearted way that's just so refreshing.
Yeah, it reminds us not to take ourselves too seriously, even when we're thinking about the big stuff in life.
So after this deep dive into Lover Comeback, what have we learned?
I think we've learned that there's a lot more to this film than you see at first glance. It's funny, it's smart, it makes you think, and people are still watching it all these years later.
It really shows you how powerful a good story can be. And it makes you wonder, what other movies have we underestimated? Like, what would we find if we just, dug a little deeper? Something to think about next time you're trying to pick a movie.